Hi everyone, Sam and Cooley back here again for another episode of Technical Tuesdays. Last week we talked about how to field check your gauge. This week we're going to talk about how to take a look at your fan to make sure that it's reading correctly. So the first thing that we'll cover is how to determine if you have a clogged port on any of the 4 ports on the nacelle of the fan. You can see I've got some blue stuff here, and what that is silly putty, the stuff that comes in the little plastic egg. It's important that you use this and nothing else, because once you put it over the ports, when you pull it off, it comes off in one piece. So don't use clay, don't use Play-Doh or anything else. Silly putty is what you want to use. So the goal here is to plug up all 4 of your ports. So if you look closely, you can see that there's a little pinhole in between these 2 fins. That's where the manometer is actually reading the fan pressure. So I've got all 4 here plugged up, and I've got it connected to my manometer. Just the other end of this tube is just plugged into the fan. And I've got a pressure here on channel A. And what I want to do here is just uncover these one by one. So if I take this one off, I can watch my pressure go down to 0. That's good. That means that this port is open, and now that there's a hole in the assembly, the pressure is going to go down to 0. So if I plug this back in, it should create a pressure again. Sometimes it helps if I just unplug the gauge, plug it back on. Now I can see my pressure is built back up. And then I'll just work my way around the fan to keep doing this to check every port. Another check that we usually want to do to make sure everything is working properly is making sure that the motor of the fan is mounted properly. Sometimes if these fans get abused and thrown and tossed around, sometimes the motor can get shifted or move out of place. So what we can do is lie the fan down with the inlet side facing up, and then we'll just take something with a straight edge. It can be a level or anything else that's just a perfect straight edge, and lie it across the diameter. And depending on what fan model that you have, there should be a certain amount of space between that straight edge and the very center of the fan. So for example, for this model 6000 fan, we want no less than a 3mm gap between that straight edge and the very center of the fan. We can also check the fan for the maximum pressure that it's going to generate while it's running wide open without any back pressure on it. So to do this, we would take this ring A off if it were on, have the fan open, and then just turn it all the way up without it being installed on a building. So for example, on this model 6000, we would be generating 232 pascals, somewhere within 15% of that number, while the fan was running wide open, again, without any back pressure on it. If you're gonna do this while having the fan on a tabletop, just make sure you have a good firm hand on it, because it will get away from you. And we can also check on accuracy by adding a hole in whatever room or building that we're testing. So for example, we can measure a house, and then we can drop the frame down some, add a panel in there that has a 12 by 12 inch hole, which would equal 144 square inches. And then we can measure it again. And then by using the EQLA function on the DM32, we can see the hole size in square inches. So the difference between the 2 readings before and after we have that hole should be roughly 144 inches. So those are just a few checks that you can use to make sure that your blower door fans are running properly the way they should, the same way that they came out of the factory. Join us back here again next week as we talk about how to check your duct tester fans. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you back here again next week.